Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto Got His Wish, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The sun climbed above the horizon, turning the eastern sky fiery orange. In recent days, with the pall of the black storm clouds hanging like the raised guillotine over their heads, the villagers had come to hold this time sacred. In these early hours, before the blazing orb of daylight rose beyond the veil of the thunderheads, they flocked into the streets to do their shopping and their chores bathed in warmth and light. Today was no different from the previous days in terms of the sun's early glory, but a stranger who had only just arrived the day before would have been able to perceive the infection that marred the livelihood of the village. Rumors flitted about, spreading like wildfire from mouth to ear, soul to soul. The S itself was as wild and outrageous as the rate at which it spread, and it seemed to come in an infinite number of varieties. However, it all revolved around one occurrence, the odd, prolonged rumblings that had rocked the village in the night. Nobody could offer more than a guess, for nobody had been given the true story. A fair number shrugged it off, dismissing the tremors as an earthquake. We've been overdue for a quake, haven't had one in 100 years, offered Ichiraku Tsuki. Others capitulated to subdued panic, whispering fearfully in their neighbors' ears that the Akatsuki lurked below ground, come to put Konoha to the flame as they had sooner. There was only one organization that knew what had happened in its entirety, and they were all but prancing around their conference room in gleeful triumph. Order! Cried First Elder Takashi. This is our hour of victory, but I will have it celebrated in a civilized fashion. Cease your buffoonery before I have you all evicted. The lesser members of the advisory council were too happy to take the reprimand sharply. They returned to their seats, but they remained exalted. The elderly Takashi could not help but smile back at them. His legacy was to be assured. Now then, Shinosuke-kun, he said, turning back to the young Chunin who knelt at his side, rise, and bring forth this evidence that Hiroto has obtained. Hi, Takashi-sama, said Shinosuke. He laid the stack of photographs, the ones that were not severely water damaged, upon the conference table, and the younger councillors all leaned forward to get a good look at them. So, Hiroto snapped these himself, did he? Asked one of them. It makes sense. If anyone can out-sneak that be Haruka, it would be him. Actually, my lord, it was not my master who took these pictures, interjected Shinosuke. They were recovered from the aftermath of last night's activities by an Anbu member whom Hiroto-sama paid well to find them. The most likely explanation is that Haruka-san dropped them during her escape. The young advisor and a few of his colleagues stared incredulously at him. The Anbu was supposed to work only for the Hokage's office and accept no commission, payment, or bribe from anyone else. It doesn't matter, anyway, he shrugged finally. With this, we'll be able to cast that little slip of a girl into the branch house, and choose a new leader. A strong leader. It seems ironic to me, mused Takashi, that Haruka-san, the one person who impeded our path, ended up providing us with the very photographic evidence that she has so adamantly prevented us from having. This got a laugh out of the whole room, minus Shinosuke. I wonder, said an old, corpulent Hyuga to the first's left, why Hiroto did not deliver this message and his wonderful gift of evidence in person. Surely he would not pass away the opportunity to flaunt his success in our faces, rub our noses in our own impotency. This last comment sobered the councillors. He did have a point. Was Hiroto up to something, perhaps planning to betray them at the last second? My master anticipated that sentiment, Shinosuke replied, and instructed me to respond that he is unwell and cannot attend this meeting. He promises to come and revel in his glory, the glory that you will likely take credit for, before you at a later time. One junior advisor, remembering the hole that had nearly been put through his heart at the captain's last appearance, shuddered and grimaced. Pardon me, First Elder, said the middle-aged woman from her seat, but what of the young Uzumaki Naruto? Has he been relieved of his duty? The QB may manifest itself as it did against Hiroto if we try to take Hinata-sama while she is under his charge. Takashi nodded in acknowledgement. Hokage-sama has received the reports of last night's incident and has decided to lift the emergency protective measures. All of them? She asked, incredulously. Tsunade-sama would not be fool enough to lift the measures so quickly, without conducting a final investigation of the facility and surrounding areas. The Anbu are conducting that investigation as we speak, offered Shinosuke. What is more, Hiroto-sama arranged to have some sound evacuees flee the facility and be captured by the village patrol. They were interrogated overnight and have confessed to being affiliated with the main detachment of Orochimaru's forces. It has by no means totally convinced Tsunade-sama, but it has helped to ease her mind. Takashi inclined his head in agreement. Hokage-sama did not lift all of the emergency measures, Hinako. In fact, the search parties have doubled in number. However, the measure that counts has been done away with. The personal bodyguards have all been relieved of the duties, including Uzumaki Naruto. Hinako nodded, conceding the point, but she pressed on. That is well, First Elder. However, I would like to ask you to consider going ahead with the original plans to dispose of the boy. Now, that probably isn't necessary, Hinako, interrupted the corpulent man. It is enough that Hinata-sama can no longer succeed the clan. So long as we do not threaten Hinata-sama's life, I believe that he will remain docile. Hinako glared at him. You are old enough to remember, Hikaru, that the first Uzumaki the council sought to deny was undaunted when you believed you had won. He pressed onward, would have undone our entire way of life, had the unfortunate death of Hiashi-sama's late sister prevented him at the last. Your council could have done nothing had that not happened, for you had let slip your hold when you should have held fast. Hikaru was balked, managed only to say weakly, but, Hinako, this is a child we are dealing with, not a grown man like the first. A child who carries a demon within him. She spat. A child who could easily succumb to that destructive impulse that comes with it. A child guided by one of our own turned traitor and a lunatic masquerading as our ancestor. Do you honestly believe that any price is not worth eliminating any chance whatsoever for that monstrosity to gain a foothold in our clan? The room was silent. First Elder Takashi was the first to regain his composure, took over the floor. What you say has merit, Hinako. We will put it to a vote. All in favor of carrying out the original plans for Uzumaki Naruto, rise. There were very few people in the room sympathetic to the blonde boy. Almost unanimously, the Hyuga Advisory Council came to its collective feet. Very well, said the first, draft the letter, and be sure to forge the signature correctly. Uzumaki Naruto will depart on his final mission tonight. A scribe hurried off to begin the task. Takashi turned to face Shinosuke. I am sorry for keeping you, Shinosuke-kun. You may go. Please send your master my thanks, and wish him a speedy recovery for me. Bowing, Shinosuke left. He stuffed a hand in his left pocket and shuffled out the door, saluting the door guards in traditional fashion as he passed. Now the advisory council was alone, and the feeling of exultation returned. Let us go and present our evidence before our revered lord, said the first. To hell with whose daughter it is. A future ruler must learn to associate with the right crowd. Demons are not welcome in the house of Hyuga. A cheer went up in the chamber. We have been patient. We have gathered the necessary proof, and we will be put off no longer. A second cheer, louder this time. If Hiashi-sama refuses us once more, then there shall be rioting. Violence between the factions. The civilian clansmen, all bearing the curse of the caged bird, will throw off the shackles and call for justice, even against their own branch house kinsmen serving in our shinobi corps. Hiashi-sama, being the soft-hearted man that he has become, will not use force against his own people. We will break him, and we will oust him, and we will have the strong and wise leader that the Hyuga deserve. The third and final cheer nearly blasted the door off of its hinges. Naruto was discontent. The morning light, the smells of food in the streets, and the memory of last night's complete victory did not help. Everyone within a stone's throw of him could tell that he was not happy, and those who remembered the Naruto of 3 years past knew that trouble was liable to follow in the wake of a discontent Uzumaki. He paid these people no heed. He paid no one any heed at all, so great was his disappointment. For the first time in 3 years, Naruto walked right by Ichiraku's ramen restaurant and was not compelled to enter and have a bowl. He distantly returned the friendly waves of his comrades. Ino, Kiba, Chuji, Lee, and others frowned when he went by, knowing that something was very wrong with the blonde friend but unsure how to help. Naruto acknowledged them silently in the back of his mind, and felt glad to have such good friends, but talking to them would do little good. He needed someone who knew his distress intimately, who would be able to turn this bad situation into something that he could use. The dreary march went on all through the village until the sun finally passed out of the clear sky and became lost in the shroud of the black thunderheads. Then it went on some more. Every time I get close, he thought, I find out I'm further away than I ever was. He looked up into the darkened sky, as if the answer he sought might somehow be hidden up there, a cryptic message in the clouds. Where the hell are you, you bastard? Thunder boomed over his head, mocking his thoughts. Frustrated, he grabbed a rock from the side of the street and flung it as hard as he could straight up, seeking to maim the brewing squall for its audacity. Damn it, Naruto yelled. If you would just come home, or at least show your ugly mug so that Sakura and I could drag you home, then I could move on to more important things. More fun things. Less painful things. He picked up the rock, which had fallen back down onto his head, and crushed it in his hand. The fragments fell back to earth from between his fingers. Naruto sighed, letting go of his frustration. He tried to fill the void it left with happier thoughts, thoughts of the golden days before Sasuke had left, memories of the journeying he'd done with Keisuke and Haruka and Ero Sennin, thoughts of what he would do when all of this had blown over. The blonde saw himself atop the Hokage Tower, proudly bearing the mantle of the Rokudaime. Behind him stood Tsunade, beaming at her successor, Haruka and Keisuke standing side by side with Ero Sennin behind them, raising drinks in his honor. Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke stood on his left, each one proud to be up there with him. In a semicircle at their backs were Naruto's comrades and friends, Neji, Tenten, Lee, Ino, Shikamaru, Chuji, Kiba, and Shino, each one resplendent in his or her Anbu uniform. In his left hand, he held the head of Kyuubi by its ears. The villagers, crowding in the streets below, looked upon it and chanted his name in tribute. And standing at his right hand, in a place that had once been occupied by Sakura and been empty for years after she'd left it, stood Hinata, said Naruto. He was no longer surprised to see her in that place in his grand vision. She'd been there for several days. He sighed again. Why now? He asked the gods for the umpteenth time. I liked her since the first Chunin exam, all that time ago. Before that, I had never taken a second look at her. Afterward, I saw her for what she was, a kind, strong person who tried her hardest to improve herself. A lot like me, really. She changed a lot, and by the time I left I felt like we were kinda kindred spirits, but nothing more. Resting his hands behind his head and looking once more to the sky, he wondered, as far as I can tell, she was still the same person when I came back, so what changed? He walked on through the dimly lit midday, seeking answers in solitude. Hinata sat alone on a bench by a fountain in the plaza. For the first time in days she was out in the village without her new bodyguard. She missed his constant presence at her side and the humorous antics that he put on every day to her amusement. It felt odd, almost as though she were missing her right arm. She had taken the news of his assignment's end in stride, of course, though it made her sad. She was resolved to get used to not seeing him for long periods of time. She'd gone 3 years without seeing hide nor hair of him, so she could wait a while longer. Plus, she knew that Keisuke was right, things would begin to change, and hopefully soon. She was about to end her short respite, pick up her bags and head home, but once again, fate intervened. As she got to her feet, she found the number one most surprising ninja standing before her. Fear stole over her, and she had to fight the urge to look over her shoulder to see if any Hyuga were watching nearby. Since Naruto's mission was over, they had no reason to be seen together, and any violation of her father's ultimatum could cost her the right of succession. She tried to keep her face cool and composed, attempted to look past him rather than at him. Moving forward through the throng of people, she tried to push past him. Good afternoon, Naruto-kun, she said, not quite succeeding at keeping her voice calm. Please excuse me, I was just leaving. Naruto put his heavy hand on her shoulder, stopping her in her tracks. She fought panic, tried to think of the best way to extricate herself without offending him, but her mind had begun to go foggy. The blonde shinobi spoke, and his voice was layered thickly with dark and sad undertones. Hinata, he said, do you think we could talk for a minute? Someplace quiet. Her pearly white eyes locked onto his blue ones instantaneously. Hinata knew from the heaviness of his voice and the darkness in his normally sparkling irises that he was not himself. Somewhere inside of him, a wound had opened. Fear of discovery was wiped out. No matter what the circumstances were, the Hyuga heiress would not stand to see the Jinchuriki suffer so. Besides, if they moved quickly, they could go someplace secluded before her clansmen had a chance to find them. Lead the way, Naruto-kun. Staring into wide, concerned, liquid pools of white, Naruto found the answer to one of his questions. It's because she looks into my eyes now, he thought. Every time I think I've found a lead, every time I take a step forward, the path disappears under my feet, he said. Naruto sat with his back to an ancient oak tree with his legs splayed out in front of him, pouring out his worries. Hinata knelt at his side, listening with quiet composure. 3 years ago, I couldn't stop Sasuke from going to Orochimaru. Even though I borrowed power from the damned fox, I still couldn't stop him. You were younger then, Naruto-kun, offered Hinata gently. You believed, falsely, that the Kyuubi could give you the strength you needed, while greater strength slept, untapped. Your most powerful ability wasn't in the fight, so you lost, but even so you gave it your greatest effort. You should commend yourself for that, not damn yourself. My best effort didn't keep Sasuke in Konoha. And the mistakes just piled on after that. Mizuki, the Baikoku mission. Mizuki wasn't your fault, Hinata pointed out. He didn't know anything to begin with. How could you have known? All right, I give you that, but it was still a waste of time, he said. His voice was rising, desperate to get his fears and worries off of his chest. And then that time right after I found Keisuke again, when that pansy Kabuto attacked, we could have stopped him from escaping, made him talk. Hinata had not heard anything of this one, so she kept silent. And now, after all of the time and effort I've put into becoming stronger, I can't fight my way through a mob of cronies fast enough to catch Sasuke. If he was even there, that is, if he wasn't, then I was just wasting my time again. I'm worried, Hinata. Really worried. What if we don't find him in time, and Orochimaru takes over his body? How will I get him back then? And then, every second that passes without us finding him makes Sasuke stronger. What if, when I find him, I've wasted so much time that he's impossible to take down? Worse yet, what if I can't just knock him out and drag him home? What if I have to KO him? The strain of speaking these words caused him to fall silent. He sat leaning heavily against the tree, fists clenched and shaking. The words wrenched Hinata's heart. The poor boy was KO himself with guilt. Aching to succor him, she reached her small hands out, clasped his trembling right fist between them. Naruto looked up at her, blue eyes wide. This was the second time that she had done this since he had come home. It had an eerie calming effect, caused his fist to relax and stop shaking. Hinata clasped the fist tightly, hugged it to her chest. Her eyes stared down at it, not meeting his face, concentrating on easing his pain from the extremity inward. When the hand stopped shaking, she opened her mouth. That won't happen, she said. That definitely won't happen. Hinata, I said it to you once, a long time ago, and I stand by it. For every mistake you make, for every setback you encounter, you take a step forward. I have told you that you are a truly strong person, because you are knocked down and have the strength to get up, and because the accomplishment of getting back up makes you stronger still. Even in your failure last night, you made progress. If nothing else, you know one more place not to look for your lost teammate, and you've proven that you are far stronger than any ordinary sound shinobi. Her head shot up to meet his gaze. Naruto looked into her eyes, and saw that they were wet with unshed tears, yet at the same time there was a blazing fire within them that no tears could quench. So this is what I've been missing, all that time when she blushed and turned away. To think I saw her as a shy, dark weirdo then. I've never seen anything like her now. You are stronger than any person in this village, she said. Her voice rang out in the forest, drowned out the birdsong, drove away darkness as an intense heat banishes still water. You have been ridiculed, neglected, shunned almost all of your life, and yet you come out of it as one of the kindest, most caring and innocent people that the world has ever known. You are the unwilling host of a beast that kills thousands, yet you are nothing like that creature. You save the village every day by keeping him locked away. The tears started to fall now, but the fire in her irises burned hotter than ever. Naruto was the fire's willing captive, unable to move, slow to think or speak. He felt the small, pale hands that clutched at his right arm squeeze tighter, nearly see off the circulation to his hand. "You're the strongest," she said, her voice cracking. Her head began to fall back down to his hand. "You should be the hero and the role model of this village, but you're not. Only to me. Only to her." Thinking back on it, Naruto could remember the first time he had really noticed Hinata. Sakura had hit the nail on the head back then. She was always watching you. What the hell is in that woman's head? Keisuke stamped about his house in confusion and fury. Since they had emerged from the bowels of the ancient dungeon, the blind man had been unable to get a single word out of Haruka, not even a taunt or a jest. Though he had tried numerous times to speak to her since then, the woman had eaten about face and walked briskly away each time. First she talks to me like a spitting cobra in that hell hole, and now she's deliberately avoiding me. What the hell did I do? He sank into one of the only pieces of furniture in the house, a large cushioned chair. Sitting there and brooding over the matter, he recalled Haruka's last words to him. "What's gotten into you, besides your new partner?" "New partner? Who does she think that is? I've only had one partner in the last 2 years." In answer, a set of hands came into view in his mind, accompanied by traditional Hyuga-style robes. "Neji," he thought aloud. "She can't be serious. We may have been working together on this mission, and I do happen to like the guy, but so what? Haruka and I have been working together almost since we met. Why would she be jealous of Neji for working with me for a few days? It's ridiculous, that's what it is." "She might not see it that way," came a voice from the back of his head. "Bah," Keisuke replied. "We've never seen eye to eye, the sadist and me. This time it is different. This time, the integrity of your partnership is questioned. The integrity of, by the gods, I'll never understand you women. Men aren't supposed to understand. It isn't in their nature to understand." Keisuke sighed. "Then help me, Yuka," he whispered to no one. "If I'm not meant to understand, then what am I supposed to do?" No answer came. Instead, Keisuke heard footsteps in his hallway. Perking his head up and extending his feelers, he found the familiar Hyuga aura. Its owner stood before him in her usual tough pants and a sleeveless silk shirt. The studded leather arm braces were in order, as was the braid in her long black hair. But her whole appearance seemed frayed. There were numerous loose strands in her braid, and the pants and shirt seemed to be wrinkled in places. The aura was slow churning and sluggish, tainted with a gnawing darkness. The blind man gestured to a chair at the other end of the room. "Come in. Have a seat," he offered. Haruka did not move. Her aura did not change. "You came here to talk, am I right? I rather think we need to. Can I offer you a drink?" The aura remained dim and unresponsive. It was as though Haruka did not recognize him. "Are you there?" he questioned. He crossed the room to wave an arm in her face. "Hello. It's me, remember? Blind idiot." The aura brightened a moment, as if hope had flickered in her. Keisuke thought he'd reached her, and walked back across the room to his chair. "Please, sit down, Haruka." The aura dimmed again, as though the owner had not found what it had been hoping to find. "I don't know you," she said. Turning, she shuffled out of the door. Keisuke fury returned to him. "Damn it, Haruka," he yelled. "Damn you for being so territorial. I am not your property." As soon as the words were out of his mouth, he bit his tongue. He had no idea what had caused him to say them. The sounds of the retreating footfalls paused a moment. Then, when Keisuke did not speak again, they resumed, growing ever quieter until, at last, they passed beyond range of his hearing. "I will never understand women," he said. "You know this, and yet you continue to try. Why do you think she is so territorial, so jealous of Neji?" He paused a moment, considered. "You know what, Yuka? I rather believe I'm scared to find out." "Ooh. Naruto. Naruto, wake up." Inexplicably groggy, Naruto had to work hard to make his eyelids work. He struggled with them for several long moments before he finally pried them open. He found himself in his own bedroom. And sitting beside the bed was Sakura. "Thank goodness," breathed the pink-haired medic. "We didn't know what it was that you were hit with, at first, but it turned out not to be lethal. Still, it's good to see you awake. What am I doing here?" Where's Hinata? She is with her clan, said another woman's voice. She is attending a meeting of the Hyuga Advisory Council, answering for misdemeanor. Tsunade Bar-chan. Naruto gasped. He had not expected her here. Then her words registered. What do you mean, misdemeanor? She was pretty well behaved as far as I could tell. I know I'm not the best with etiquette and all that, but. No, said Tsunade, though undoubtedly some of the more craven members of the council would snipe at her for such a trivial thing, her etiquette has been perfect. The misdemeanor she conducted was the breaking of a certain condition laid down by the council for her eligibility as Hyashi's heiress. The punishment will likely be the stripping of her right of succession. They can't do that, Naruto responded. He sat up suddenly, startling Sakura, who had been checking his B pressure. Like it or not, Naruto, they can, said the young medic. It's their clan, not yours. Now lay back down and hold still for a moment, please. Naruto obliged her grudgingly, but did not relinquish his argument. What the hell, he said. Hinata's a great person, a strong person. I can't see any reason why they wouldn't want to fall to their knees and serve her the rest of her life. They have the Byakugan. They can see into people's hearts, but they have problems judging them fairly and correctly. For things like that, we have gullible, innocent, guileless people like you, Naruto, Tsunade said. Hokage and Rebel shared a quick smile at the playful insult. Even so, there is nothing we can do for her lawfully, continued Tsunade. I'll make sure to question Hyashi about that unprovoked knockout dart, though. Anyway, if you are well, I have another assignment for you. Damn, a mission now. I'm still dizzy. You'll be fine in an hour or so, said Sakura. That QB is good for one thing, if nothing else. I've never seen such quick regeneration in a human before. He, I guess you're right, said Naruto. Your mission, continued Tsunade, will be in Nano country. I have a letter here from the daimyo, Haruna, I believe you may remember her. Naruto nodded. Yep, right around the time I was getting ready to leave. Not very nice at first, but she turned out to be a good person. Tsunade smiled. That's good. The letter says that Haruna will be traveling by ground to a neighboring country to settle a trade dispute with the daimyo there. She has heard that you returned to Konoha, and she requested that you be sent a special escort. Another guard detail, Naruto said. It's boring, that's for sure, but I'll enjoy seeing Haruna and Yorinoju again. Say, I thought you weren't sending me out of town anymore because of Akatsuki danger. It's true that the Konoha Council doesn't want me to send you out too far on your own, she said, and I agree with them. But Nano Country is fairly close to Konoha and you'll be working alongside at least one other skilled ninja, so you should be relatively safe. Besides, I always did like the Nano Country. Just go there, do your job, and get back as fast as you can. Now, you ought to get ready. You'll need to leave by tonight if you want to make it on time. Tsunade gave him a last quick smile, then left him with Sakura. The medic finished her work, regarded her blonde teammate with a knowing look. You don't want to go. As much as I'm looking forward to seeing more old friends, you're right. I don't, he said. You're worried about her, aren't you? Kinda. I don't trust Hiroto or his guys, putting me in a coma like that just so they can ask Hinata to go with them. Damned cowards, who knows what they'll do. Sakura gave a small sigh. I know what they'll do, she said. I heard them talking about it when they dumped you in front of the hospital. They said. The pink-haired medic Nin gulped, thinking of the terrible thing that was about to happen to her friend. They said that Hinata was going to join the branch house. They're going to force the caged bird seal on her. Sakura closed her eyes, waiting for Naruto to blow up in rage. She was surprised when the explosion didn't come. The blonde teenage ninja got up from the bed, began pulling on his orange and black jacket and his Hittite 8 headband. His face was perfectly composed, his movements smooth, not the jerky motions of a man possessed by fury. Naruto. That won't happen, he said, his voice low and determined. That definitely will not happen. You can't be thinking of marching in there and stopping them. Can't I, Sakura? Tsunade Bar-chan said there was nothing we could do for her lawfully. Sakura was horrified. So you, Uzumaki Naruto, plan to take on the whole of the Hyuga clan by yourself. If that's what it takes. Naruto shrugged. My god, you're serious, aren't you? Said Sakura. You know you could easily get K, right? Most of the Hyuga never bothered to give you a chance, you are still the demon child to them. Naruto grimaced at that thought. I'll think of something. Geez, why, all of a sudden, are you going to such extremes for Hinata? Sakura had a reason in mind, but there was no way to be sure, with Naruto. Naruto pointed to his headband. Since Iruka-sensei gave me this, a long time ago, I swore, I will always protect my precious people. It doesn't matter what I lose in doing it. Sakura smiled. It seemed that Hinata's greatest wish was finally being granted, if a little late. And also, Naruto said, catching her attention once more, in Chunin exams 3 years ago, I promised Neji that I would change the Hyuga. I was going to wait until I became Hokage to do it, but it looks like I might have to give them their first lesson a little sooner than I planned. The young medic was astonished. Who stole the Naruto with the one-track mind, the one who thought responsibility was the 8th deadly sin? Still, this meant that Keisuke-san would be pleased, as well, so she couldn't complain. That didn't stop her from worrying about her teammate, though. Well, I guess I can't stop you, she said. But please, Naruto, be careful. Team 7 can't afford to lose any more members. Looking back from the doorway, Naruto flashed his trademark fox grin. Don't worry about that. I can't not until I've saved Sasuke and become Hokage. As long as I have a promise to keep, I'm invincible. With that said, he walked out of his apartment towards his fate. Sakura sat in his room, wondering when he'd found time to rearrange his furniture and wishing she could believe in his so-called invincibility. However, when she looked to his mangled bedsheets, at the photograph that had fallen out of his clothing, she began to feel a little more confident in him. Nice angle, Haruka-san, she remarked with a smile. It was the first photograph from the incident at Ichiraku's. Outside, the crash of thunder could be heard. Raindrops began to patter on Naruto's window. Haruka was alone. Her normally proud bearing was diminished. Her long black braid, which on any other day would be whipping in the wind as she soared over rooftops and through trees, hung limply against her back as she trudged slowly through the damp streets. The rain soaked her to the marrow, and the blaze in her silvery eyes had gone out. For the first time in 2 years, she had no one. Hinata was absorbed in Naruto, a product of Haruka's own machinations. Naruto was absorbed in her, and in finding the missing Uchiha genius. She would have welcomed even Jiraiya at this point, but he had not been in the village since bringing Naruto home. Her fellow Hyuga, with the exception of Neji and Hinata, had alienated her. Returning to them would cause the old hatred of the kin abandoner to come to a boil again, and Neji had his own duties to attend to. Plus Haruka had her own reasons not to want to be around him. And Keisuke, the blind man, was lost to Haruka. Their partnership, the only real reason that they had to stay around each other, had been broken. It was no fault of Neji's that Keisuke preferred the younger Hyuga's expertise and quiet composure to her crackling fire and determination, yet even now, after the fact, she still could not help but feel bitter. Earlier, when she had visited Keisuke's house, she had intended to take out her bitterness on the blind man rather than the innocent Neji. But when she had come into the house, she had not found Keisuke. She had found a kindly host, a benevolent blind sea who had invited her to come in, sit down, have some refreshment, and talk things over. This wasn't the man that she had come to beat on. This blind man was a total stranger to her, a mockery of kindness that had stolen her old partner's body. Unable to remain, she had walked away. The angry outcry that had followed her out the door had given her a fleeting hope. Perhaps the Keisuke she wanted still lived there somewhere after all, but there had been no more words after that. Disappointed, she had kept walking. She walked into a world of soul darkness, where nothing and no one offered succor for the feeling of wretchedness that was to come. Not far beyond the gates of Keisuke's house, she had been accosted by a middle-aged Hyuga woman, the same woman that had greeted her when she had first walked into the Hyuga compound to see Hiashi. Some of Haruka's fire had returned, and it had burned black, for Haruka ached to fill the void in her soul, and violence seemed to be a suitable candidate, even if the woman was an untrained civilian. Not contemplating are we, kin abandoner? The woman had said. Not about to become the kin are you? The words had stopped Haruka from throttling her. The last thing the outcast wanted to do was to become worse than her father. But the black fire in her heart had burned hotter still, rising higher and higher until she thought it would consume her. It is well that you do not kill me, continued the woman, for if the Anbu imprisoned you, you would be unable to see for yourself the doom for your cause that has come about by your own hands. You would not be able to look upon Hyuga Hinata's forehead and beg her for forgiveness. Haruka had stood before her, dumbfounded, disbelieving. Why what? Ah, how utterly heartless of me. It never occurred to me that you would forget to check your pockets and count the number of photographs there, but then, nobody thought to tell me that my dear sister's death had been in vain until several days after the fact. Cursing the memory and cursing herself, Haruka forced herself to keep moving through the rain, searching for the reassurance that would never come, searching for the rallying voice that had S in a blind man's T. Ooh, damn her, damn her, damn her. A human whose eye sockets were empty and shadowed plowed through the sheets of rainwater, struggling to feel for his footing through the heavy precipitation. His sunglasses had been lost when he had stumbled into a telephone pole and snapped them. His brown hair was matted to his head, and his waterlogged clothes dragged him down. All of this, combined with his already sour mood, flung him into a madness that threatened to exterminate all common sense. If not for her cursed belief of owning me, I could be at home, warm and dry, or else doing something useful like figuring out how to get Naruto another Hyuga-related mission. Damn her, making me come out here. Of course, he could have been at home or at work anyway, but the memory of her last words to him gnawed and pulsed in his guts. Despite what he wanted to be doing, he was compelled to enter the downpour. I don't know you. Well then, allow me to refresh your memory, sadist. After 2 more minutes of searching, he felt the familiar aura, more tainted than ever with darkness, and leaped to catch up. Through the inky blackness of her mind and the heavy rain, Haruka nonetheless felt the old and puissant presence at her back before it touched down. Daring to dream that Keisuke was back, that her favorite punching bag had finally come forward, she straightened and turned her head to look at him. She beheld the same kindness, the same concerned facial expression, the same subdued spirit. And though it was more ragged, more worn than when she had last seen it, all of this was still firmly ensconced in Keisuke's tall, dark, and eyeless form. The body tormented her, that the face and arms and chest and legs that once belonged to her upright, easily annoyed, occasionally lazy. Still, she had to at least acknowledge its presence. Oh, she said, it's you. She faced front again and continued walking. The blind stranger followed. Please, Haruka, he said. Let's sit down and talk about this. We can't keep this up. Still walking, unwilling to look back at the monstrosity, she replied from behind the safety of her turned back. Quote, what the hell, she said, twisting away and coming to rest in a Jukan stance. What are you doing? If you are Hyuga Haruka, as I believe you to be, said the eyeless one, then my intent is to test you. Somewhere within you sleeps the heart of a warrior, a sadist who revels in battle and in triumph. It has become shrouded in self-deception and groundless anger for a crime that was committed only in your mind. He drew himself up to his full height, towering imperiously in the squall. Lighting was his thunder his voice. I will bring the sadist forward again. If I cannot, then Hyuga Haruka is D. You say you do not know me. Fight me as you used to, know me better, and then know yourself. I don't know you, leave me in peace. Like hell, I'll leave you in peace, you great BS. Keisuke stared up into his own awestruck face. Startled, he snatched the synchronization away. But he was unable to get the picture out of his mind. He had seen himself plenty of times from Haruka's eyes. He was about to ask, what the hell is your head doing in my aching gut, you crazy SS? His words never got out because Haruka spoke first, her muffled voice rising from the folds of his shirt. Forgive, Keisuke. He was balked. Was this really Haruka? She was supposed to have him, but now she was crying into his shirt. The advisory council, Haruka said. They found one of my photographs in the castle last night. They have the proof they need, and they're going to make Hinata-chan into a caged bird. The sound of the rain became the cacophony of Keisuke's dreams into the ground like gargantuan meteors, burning with the air friction of the descent. No. A caged bird cannot fly, cannot succeed the clan. Naruto can't change the clan by marrying a caged bird. And there's no way, at this point, that he will consider anyone else, and no way that I would ruin his life by trying to make him. The hand that had been around Haruka's shoulders into the stone of the wall, leaving yet another crater. Damn it. How am I to fix this mess? I don't see how you can, not without committing G against the council, said Haruka. Her face returned to his shirt, where fresh tears soaked into the fibers. Forgive, Keisuke. Blind fool, please forgive. Keisuke couldn't bring himself to say anything. He didn't have the physical energy to do anything but lean against the wall and listen to fate destroy his ambition. Then, abruptly, the rain ceased to fall on them. Through Haruka's eyes, he could see that an umbrella had been placed over their heads. Hold this, please, said the owner. I need both hands to heal you. Sakura-san. Just do it. We don't have a lot of time. Haruka extricated herself from Keisuke. She held the umbrella for Sakura. Heal the oaf first, she said. He can't feel good, having been stepped on by the same woman for about the 1000th time. The oaf did little more than grunt in annoyance and let Sakura in to do her work. When it was done, he was able to move with no pain, though his energy was as low as ever. Reaching into his vest, he withdrew a soldier pill, hoping that its nutrients would bring him back into fighting shape soon. Sakura seemed as though she had a plan of action in mind. After she had finished tending to Haruka, he inquired as to what it was. You may not know what to do about this, Sakura said, but Naruto seems to. The rain grew lighter. Naruto hated stealth. In his earlier years, it had been the hardest concept for him to grasp, even more difficult for him to master. Here, however, it was essential. If he raised the alarm, the whole Hyuga complex would boil forth and knock him silly, if not D. So he kept his chakra low, his motions smooth and quiet, and his eyes and ears peeled. He rested in the prone position on a rooftop over the largest building. Below him could be heard the voices of two men inside the building, talking heatedly, and many more voices quietly mumbling among themselves outside. Naruto chose not to bother himself with the latter. They were saying things that Sakura had been telling him earlier. Instead, he focused himself on the former, and was intrigued by what he heard. Takashi, said one man, please, reconsider this. The evidence is undeniable, that is true, but what has been proven is hardly worth the trouble of cursing Hinata. Look at this one, the two of them are barely brushing each other. This one, however, said the second man, whose frail voice strongly contrasted the deep, resonant voice of his companion, is more explicit, I think. A pause, and then the first man changed his angle. Takashi, my eldest daughter, she is 15 now, and she has been groomed all her life to take my place. To thrust her so roughly into a far different role after so much is irrelevant, interrupted the second. We laid down strict guidelines for Hinata's behavior. She has broken them. The punishment will be carried out as dictated by that ultimatum. You cannot prevent it. Can I not? Said the first man thickly. I am, after all, the head of this clan. Naruto guessed that this must be the current Hyuga patriarch, Hinata's father. It is true, you do have the E-power to stop the procedure. But do you know what would happen if you did, Hiashi? The old man's voice became a low wheeze, and he was beginning to sound pleased with himself. You have E-power, Hiashi, but the civilian populace, all of the members of the branch house, is rapidly losing respect for that office. They have turned to a more organized, civilized body for leadership. They could be made to rise against you, Hiashi, every single one. Would you kill every last innocent life in the clan because they wanted to make their own fate? There was once a Hyuga Hiashi that might have, but he is D. Takashi, please, she is my eldest daughter, 15, you know that the process is more painful for older children. I don't want her to go through that. Yes, a sad thought, but we must banish it from our minds, Hiashi. You have another daughter to think about now, your true successor. Leadership qualities seem to run with the second-born in your line, don't they? A long, dark silence. You will not impose guilt upon me, Takashi, Hiashi said. It is true that I have often wished it was Hisashi who had succeeded the clan. However, the fact of the matter is that he did not. I govern this clan, not he. You or I cannot change that. No, unfortunately, we cannot. But we can pick and choose who will succeed this time, and just like you, that successor will be under our thumb, Hiashi. Naruto almost broke his cover. He'd thought Hinata's father was a mean old fart after sending the bastard Hiroto to drag her off, but the way he was being spoken to was so unfair, especially since he was an authority figure. Not that he himself showed much respect towards authority figures, but when he became Hokage, he would never allow anyone to speak to him like that. He heard Takashi open the door in preparation to depart. His comrades outside cheered him. "Hiashi," he said, "my colleagues and I will be in our conference room, if you need us. Feel free to go down south to the branding chamber to watch, if you wish. It may not be pretty, but at least Hinata will be comforted knowing that her loving father is there." The door closed. The council marched off to their victory party. Naruto cautiously stood up, careful not to make noise. South End, he thought. That's where they'll be. Hiashi's voice, broken and pleading, could be heard from below. "I pray to whatever gods who listen," he said. Please help my daughter." "I'm no god, old man," thought Naruto, "but Hinata's in good hands. I promise." The Hyuga lieutenant in charge of escorting Hyuga Hinata to the branding chamber was very smug as he led the way to the south end of the complex. He'd been given a task force of 15 Hyuga for the job, but he hardly thought it was necessary. After all, who in the world would defy the council now? Nobody who wanted to live comfortably, that was certain. Hell, the Kyuubi child was already on his way to D because he crossed the council. He was so sure that nothing could possibly go wrong that he did not even take notice of the blonde teen in orange until he was practically on top of him. "Ha," he said with an air of annoyance, "get out of the way, kid." The lieutenant moved to push past him, and was greeted by the sky as the kid grabbed hold of him and heaved him into the air. "Naruto-kun," cried the voice of his charge. The words were simultaneously full of hope and laced with fear. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Flipping over in midair, the lieutenant looked down to see a force of 8 Narutos crash headlong into his 15 men. They were more prepared than he had been. Only 3 of them fell to the initial O, and the rest grappled with the clones, holding their own against them but not causing much damage. Still, it was more than the lieutenant had managed. He was supposed to be leading them, and here he was just coming to the end of his upward flight, doing nothing while his underlings fought. And he had completely relaxed his guard when he should not have, disregarding the fact that the Kyuubi boy had no respect for authority and not realizing that he might have been coming here regardless of what he'd been told to do. He'd get demoted for sure. Frantic, he thought about what aid he might be able to give from his position. After a few seconds, he had an idea. "Seize the girl, don't let her go," he shouted. "Into the branding chamber, quickly, lest there are more of them," shouted the lieutenant. "Turn your Byakugans off, as well, don't activate the defense mechanism," he added as an afterthought. In the gardens adjacent to the chamber, 2 people lay camouflaged underneath an assortment of leafy plants. "Geez, that was close. Really close," said the Hyuga escort. Quote, releasing the illusion, the fake Hyuga escort reverted to his true form. "Naruto-kun," gasped Hinata. You, how? "In all honesty, I didn't expect it to go so well," he said. "I totally thought that those Byakugan eyes would see through the smoke and the illusion, but I guess they're overrated, huh? No offense. None taken, Naruto-kun," she said. "But, why did you do that? You knew how dangerous it would be if you failed." "That's easy," he said. "You're my friend, Hinata." "No, more than that. There are plenty of reasons why, and I'll tell you later, but now, we have to talk about the rest of my plan. Once they come out of there, the illusion won't fool them long. Sooner or later, somebody is going to use the Byakugan, and they'll realize that the one they just put the seal on isn't you. If that happens, we're both screwed." Hinata nodded. The words, "more than a friend," were music to her, a song that played over and over in her head, but he was right. If his wild scheme was to work, they had to cover their tracks. "Listen, Hinata," he went on, "I'll find a way to divert their attention, and then we'll switch you back in. Tie your Hitai-8 around your forehead, and don't take it off. If you absolutely have to remove it, then create an illusion of that weird seal. Do it even if you're completely alone. We don't know who might be watching. So much of this depends on pure luck. We don't want to increase the danger any more than we have to." Hinata was afraid. He wasn't kidding when he said this hinged on luck. So many things could go wrong with his plan. Yet he was sticking to it, and she was going to put all her faith in it, in him, as well, though it might mean the end of him and of her happiness. "All right, Naruto-kun. I will do my best to keep this secret until whatever it is happens that needs to before I can rest. Naruto smiled at her. That girl. They settled down to wait. Naruto-kun, Hinata said suddenly, I feel badly for your bunshin. The branding process is supposed to be very painful for teenagers and adults. The blonde next to her grimaced. Her eyes filled with concern. Naruto-kun, what's wrong? He turned his head towards her slowly, and his blue eyes brought a chill to her. I heard about that on my way in. If it's as bad as you say it is, a bunshin wouldn't be able to handle it. He'd disappear in the middle of the process. Hinata's mouth dropped open, horrified. No. You don't mean. I do, he said. His face was lined with sorrow. I'm the bunshin. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.